Torrential Baptism, a story by Ralph Hines in Colombia from the early 1950s. He was my father, and he often told this story as we were growing up. As our dugout canoe touched on the broad, flat beach at Cambao, Hipólito Diaz, a native believer, and I stepped on shore to be confronted by a group of 6 men. We had seen them as we crossed the Magdalena River and hoped they were planning to have a swim. This was not to be. 2 were in police uniform and the others in civilian clothes. Before we could take 6 steps, we were ordered to stop and be searched. The contents of our pockets were examined and returned to us. Then my briefcase was opened and my Bible and hymn book were violently thrown to the ground. We were in trouble. We had come to Cambao that 28th day of December with high hopes of holding our first evangelical baptism service. Hipólito, an elder of the church in Onda, and a lay preacher, had carefully prepared the believers. Old Jose, his wife, and daughter Rafina were expected to be ready for their baptism. The little group of believers had suffered persecution and many threats ever since the gospel meetings had first been held there some 3 years before. Some had turned back, but others stood firm and were ready to face anything the Lord permitted. We had not used the government ferry that day. That was free for all who wished to cross the river. 3 months previously, when Martha and I had visited Cambao, one of the ferrymen had been insulting. "Come back and we'll give you a ride and a bath," he called out as we left the ferry. So we ceased using the ferry and arranged for the boys from the Urquito family to meet us upriver with the canoe. I was sorry to leave Martha at home in Onda that morning. She had wanted to go with me and take her 4-year-old Carolyn too. Carolyn had taken sick with a nasty mouth infection just before Christmas. It had dampened the spirits of an otherwise happy day. Now it was obvious that God was in our apparent disappointment. Now I was on my own, and it was best. The men began insulting us, using foul language and accusing us of filling the town with our doctrines. Then, while the policeman questioned me, the inspector of police came behind me and struck me twice across the back with his walking stick. My hat flew off, my glasses bounced about, so I removed them and stuck them in my pocket. "You're going into the river, do you hear?" shouted the inspector. "This is a Catholic town, and the conservatives are in power." Then he followed up with filthy and insulting accusations, too vile to repeat. The inspector turned to Hipólito, struck him twice across the back with his cane, and knocked him down with 2 blows to his face. This was followed by several brutal kicks and more abusive language. Quickly, another man brought one of our hymn books to me and ordered me to burn it. Thoroughly frightened, but thankful that it wasn't the Bible, I made an appearance at attempting to put fire to it. When it didn't burn, they gathered all our books and threw them into the river. "Now, into the river you go. Get out of here," they ordered. Leading me to the water's edge, they pushed me in. With revolver in hand, the policeman also ordered Hipólito into the river. Threatening to shoot us, he commanded that we throw ourselves full length into the water. There was nothing to do but obey orders. We plunged in. Soon we were submerged to our necks, fully clothed, shoes and all. Farther and farther we went into the swiftly flowing stream. Our tormentors were watching us intently. Since neither of us were good swimmers, we had to trust God to work for us. Although there had not been rain in our district for many days, somewhere it must have rained, because the swollen mountain streams had brought down some banana trees. 3 of these, entangled in a rough vine, were caught on a rock just upstream from where we were driven into the river. Using the vine and a cord Hipólito had kept from his parcel of books, he was able to bind the 3 trees together side by side. Stretching ourselves out on our makeshift raft, we pushed off and were carried downstream. At first we paddled with our arms, but soon tired and lay quietly while the swift current carried us along. We floated for quite some distance, and then a current pulled us into our homeward shore. The place we landed was a tangled jungle, and we could not walk far. But a fisherman in a dugout canoe came along, saw our dripping clothes, and in sympathy took us to a place where we could get onto a road and walk to the train station. Meanwhile, Martha had hired a car and began a frantic search for us. God graciously worked some miracles. Various phone calls were made, and she learned that we had arrived in Mariquita. Soon Martha and I were joyfully in one another's arms, recounting the Lord's mercies. When the governor was informed of the attack, he sent a special investigator who confirmed our report, whereupon the inspector of police was dismissed and the policeman was sent elsewhere. 2 months later, Hipólito and I returned to the place where we had been driven into the river. There we baptized 3 believers. Through persecution, God continues to work in Colombia.